Hey everyone, we're back.
We are back. It's been a couple of months and some of you have been asking, or maybe nobody, because I don't think anybody cares about us. We've been missing for a couple of months.
Yes, we did upload a video a few weeks ago, but that was a belated upload from a trip that we did last summer.
Yeah, a lot has happened in the last couple of months, and one of them being, I'm not pregnant, but this new place. You probably noticed that we're in a new setting. And teaser, we bought our first apartment in Amsterdam.
We're homeowners in the Netherlands.
We are finally homeowners, and more about that in a future video or in the next video, so stay tuned.
Because the point of this video is about sharing our experiences going back home to Canada.
Yeah, so we visited Vancouver, Canada, our first home, for 5 weeks over the holidays, and we just came back like 2 weeks ago, so we thought we would sit down and share our experiences in this video about what it feels like to go back to your home country as an expat after 2.5 years, specifically going back to Canada, and all of the logistics around actually flying during a pandemic and all of that fun stuff. So if you're interested, we're just gonna be like a little story time for the next like 20-30 minutes. So stay tuned and let's get into it.
Let's go.
All right, so first up, you're probably wondering how we even managed to go on this long distance flight of like 10 hours all the way to Canada during a pandemic. So Jesse's gonna kind of go through like logistically what you actually have to do to go there and back.
Yeah. I'll prefix this by saying that you should check the rules before you travel, but at the time when we traveled, these were the rules that we had to abide to. So when we flew from Amsterdam to Vancouver, the rule was within 24 hours of our flight, we needed to take a PCR test. And how do you take a PCR test? At least in Amsterdam, there's a lot of PCR locations that you can go register and then pay for the test. Roughly, I think, let's say 80 to 100 euros per test.
Yeah.
And then you go there, get your test done, and then within maybe a couple of hours, they will email you the results.
Actually, yours was faster. Mine took overnight. So like mine didn't come in till around 3 a.m. before a flight, and I was like freaking out, but no, we got it in time. And then, yeah,
so you get your results, and then only if you have a negative results, of course, then you can get onto the flight coming into Canada.
Now, before you actually get on the flight, there were a lot of things that we had to fill out. We were going a stop through Germany.
We went through Frankfurt in Germany, and then Frankfurt in Germany to Vancouver.
And so because of that, entering Canada, you have to download the Arrive Can app, which have to go through all the paperwork there online. And then because we're flying into Germany also had their own like website, I think, where we had to fill out the same paperwork, basically showing your vaccinations. You have to be I think fully vaccinated to get into Canada for sure. Germany, I'm not really sure, but we had to show whatever vaccination papers we had. So there was like a lot of logistical like paperwork there, and it was actually quite chaotic. Like I felt very like overwhelmed by all of the information to make sure that we had before the flight. So make sure to check all of the emails that Air Canada or whoever you're flying with provides you with, and make sure you have that all in check. And then once we got over to Canada, we had to do a test when we arrived.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was a free test. Fortunately, Canada paid for a free, was it a PCR test?
It's a PCR.
Yeah, it was a PCR test right at the airport. Weirdly enough, it was like selective testing. So like they asked Jesse to get a test, but they didn't ask me. But I was like he's getting one anyway, so I'd rather get tested just to be sure. And so it was super quick. But getting the test means that you need to quarantine during the time before you get your results back. Fortunately, it was only 24-hour turnaround, so the next day, by the end of the day, we already got our results back. It was negative, and we were able to leave our homes. So that was fairly easy, got there no problem. Coming back though, we had...
So actually the rule changed
Yeah.
When we were in Vancouver for those 5 weeks.
Right.
Before we arrived to Vancouver, there was no testing requirement to come back to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
But in the middle of our trip, they announced that you need to take a PCR test or a antigen rapid test in order to enter the Netherlands.
Yeah, so the difference between those two is antigen is cheaper and you only need you need to do it 24 hours beforehand, so less time frame. PCR test, I think it's 48 hours, so 3 days, meaning if you don't have time and you don't want to be so last minute, then you have to pay more to take the PCR test because there's a bigger window of when you can take that test. We took the antigen test, it was super expensive. We took it the day before at the airport for 80 Canadian.
$80 Canadian.
Yeah, 80 Canadian.
And when I say
each.
rapid test, it is actually rapid because we got the email result 10 minutes, almost 10 to 20 minutes after we left the testing site.
Yeah, which is great, but also the lineup was like forever. Like in Amsterdam, all of the tests, all of the vaccinations, all of that stuff were super quick, speedy. You go in, the lineup is like super fast, and then you get it and you're done and you're leaving. Whereas in Canada, everything was like lineups for days. It was like an hour. I felt like at least a half an hour lineup, if not more. So make sure to take that into fact because of parking in Canada, but also it just like took forever to do anything there. So just keep that in mind if you're doing the antigen test specifically, because it's only a 24-hour window. If you take it right before your flight, not recommended just because that lineup is so long. I would.
Or you could be sick, or you could be negative, and then you have to find some backup plans on, accommodations because you're gonna have to change your flight. So at least you get a peace of mind the day before because you have 24 hours to do the test. Then you're negative, so you have that peace of mind going into the flight the next day.
Very good point. So overall, it was, expensive experience, but it was all negative and we managed to make it all happen. So
well worth it.
Well worth it. Okay, so that was like the logistical side of getting to Canada. For me, there were a lot of feelings when we booked this flight, and finally, after like 2.5 years, we've been living in Amsterdam for 2.5 years. We've booked multiple flights throughout this 2.5 years, and all of them have been either canceled or postponed. So finally making it happen during this holiday almost seems so surreal. Like we didn't believe that this was actually happening until we got on the flight. After we arrived, like
even when we were at Schiphol and we checked in already, sitting at the lounge before we get on the flight, like this is happening.
Is this really happening? Is this actually gonna happen? Like it was so surreal. Yeah. So it was pretty like, it just felt like so weird to like see people in person, in the flesh. And yeah, I don't know, how did you feel about this going back home after 2.5 years and like seeing friends and family?
I think the first week was, I don't know how to describe it, it felt really surreal.
Yeah.
Like I didn't feel like I was actually back in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Everything seemed fake or like a dream.
Yeah, it was
we've been talking about coming
sure.
back for so long, or wanting to come back for so long,
yeah.
and it didn't happen for 2.5 years, and it finally did. So then when we were there, it didn't feel like it was real for the first week.
It also didn't feel like it was real because we were there for 5 weeks, and for the first 2 weeks we had terrible jet lag, but also because we're getting old, I think. But also we were working. Yes. We were both working. So you were working.
I was working Dutch hours while in Vancouver, and if you didn't know, Netherlands is 9 hours ahead of Vancouver. So I was doing Dutch hours, so I was pretty much working from 9 p.m. into the middle of the night and not sleeping until 3 or 4 a.m. Did that for a 2-week period.
Yeah, you're crazy. Yeah. I am a business owner, so I make my own hours. Thankfully, I just worked whenever I was awake, like, and not jet lagged. So that was good for me, but it was hard to get into the rhythm of things just because your brain's confused about the time difference, and then like it feels weird to be doing Amsterdam things like work in like a different place. So that was very odd as well.
Exactly. But seeing people, like seeing our family, our parents specifically, and then our close friends, I thought when I would first see them, I'm like, what do we talk about? Where do we start?
Yeah, where do we start? We're always like sit down, we're like, so how's everyone doing?
But when I think about it, you know, because of technology, FaceTime, WhatsApp, we've been pretty well connected and up to date with most people. Yeah. So then we didn't have to like start from the beginning of time again.
Right. Like I thought we were gonna, like, it's been 2.5 years, you go back and you like finally sit down, have a heart to heart with your friends and family, and I thought I would have to like go back in time and be like, this is what happened, this is what it was like, but like we've actually been talking to these people like every week, all the time on FaceTime, so it was just like a continuation of a conversation as opposed to like going back. So I guess like it's weird. It's like you've been away from home for so long, but because of this pandemic and this weird time, like we've been able to just keep in contact with people so often that while we've missed out in person, we've also haven't been missed out because everything's been so digital in the past few years. So we haven't really missed out too many things on the
Not
day-to-day.
as much as we would have if there wasn't a pandemic.
Exactly.
Speaking of going back in time, how did it feel to live separately at our parents again?
Oh, right. So for a couple of days during this trip, I stayed at my parents and you stayed at your parents.
For at least for me, it was my old room from when I was a child.
Yeah, and mine was just a guest room at my parents' new place. It was definitely very weird. We haven't been sleeping apart since we've been married, pretty much.
Since we moved out.
Well, since we've been married, even.
Yeah.
When did we ever stay apart? Never.
No, but we lived together without being married.
Oh, since we've lived together. Yeah, sorry. Since we've lived together in an apartment. Yeah, that's true. So it was definitely very weird. Like it was kind of like bringing me back to my like childhood, just because I was like waking up to my parents and like it was just a weird
feeling. Your parents asking
right?
you, "Oh, what are your plans today? Oh, are you staying home for dinner or lunch?
Do you need food? Like, let me feed you."
And then I'll be texting Cheryl, like, "Hey, I'm gonna come over, or I'm gonna pick you up in 20 minutes."
Yeah.
Which seems so weird because I would just wake up next to you like, "Okay, we're going out in 1 hour."
Yeah, that was definitely weird, and that kind of like transitions us into like how much we've actually like missed. I feel like our friends and family. We haven't seen these people in so long that it feels very nostalgic almost to be like I feel like we had this one identity. I mean, at least for me, I felt like I had an identity when I was back in Vancouver. You know, I was the daughter, I was the best friend, I was like, you know, the granddaughter, and like I just had this identity. I was a brand manager in this corporate place, and like I moved to Amsterdam and I like changed so much. I feel like I became, in my 30s, I became an entrepreneur full time. I now live in Amsterdam. I have completely new sets of friends here, and I'm like more well-traveled, not really, but like just more international, right? Like European.
On a deeper level, you transform yourself as a person, but on a lighter note, like for me, physically, this facial hair is brand new since, it's only a European thing since I moved out to Amsterdam. So no one in Canada has seen me with facial hair because I grew this since moving here.
That's so true. This is European Jesse facial hair. So it's just weird to like bring your adult Dutch self back to Vancouver, and then you try to like infuse yourself, and for some reason very quickly you kind of find yourself, your Vancouver self, and you're like, oh, like this is that child, I'm like that child of my parents, I'm the baby of the family, like I'm the best friend of this relationship. Like I started speaking Chinese more because all of my friends a lot of them are Chinese, so like very quickly I found myself finding my Vancouver self again. And strangely enough, at like some parts of that Vancouver self, I didn't really enjoy. Like I'm like, oh, I'm not the baby anymore that they once knew me as, or like, but it was also very familiar and it felt very like warm, and I'm like, oh, that's who I was. Like
we quickly reintegrated back to our old lives in Vancouver.
Very quickly.
Very quickly. Like even as soon as we landed, I remember we got into a cab to go to our family's place where we were staying at, and I was just like, without thinking, I'm telling the cab driver, turn right here, turn left there. The house is just 10 more minutes down that way, knew all the street names. Like it just came back to me.
True. Yeah, so it was almost like a rush. Like you get there and you're like, oh, it's gonna feel so foreign, and then suddenly it just all rushes back to you like, oh yeah, like I like to get bubble tea at this place, I like to order this dish at this place.
And then having like hang out with our friends and seeing them for the first time, it was like, for the first maybe hour, like talking about the highlights of our time in Amsterdam, what we missed, but then we quickly go back to talking about the memories we had from like 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So it was really nice to see people at their new homes that we haven't visited before.
And babies like that we've never met. There's so many new humans that we've missed out on their first year of life. And then
going out for lunch or dinner or brunch, whatever, at restaurants that we really love back from before, and also trying out new restaurants as well.
Oh my gosh, food, you guys. Food.
We're just gonna say some cuisine, and then there's gonna be pictures that will pop up. For example, like sushi. Like we can there's so much cheap sushi.
I know, guys. Like if you've never visited Vancouver, one of the top reasons why you should visit Vancouver is for semi-affordable sushi. It's everywhere. It's all good. It's amazing. The quality is amazing. It's super authentic.
Very authentic.
And I don't know, authentic's a weird word to use for Japanese sushi, but like it's just good. It's just very good sushi. So
not just that though, like Chinese food.
Oh my gosh.
Dim sum.
Korean food.
Vietnamese, What else are we missing?
Hot pot.
Home cooked meals.
Oh my gosh, like Hong Kong cafes. Like literally that's the one thing that we miss the most, because for our Netherlands watchers here, Hong Kong style cafes are not a thing in the Netherlands and in most part of Europe, which is really weird because it's such a westernized type of Hong Kong food that you would think in most Western cultures, like if you have Chinese food, that's the first thing you would bring over, because it's such a fusion of Asian food but with very classic Western styles of cooking. So it's very easy to get into it. But yeah, basically for 5 weeks straight, we went out to ordered food in and ate every single cuisine that we missed this whole time. And
I had my favorite dish like 5 times on this trip. If you never had a baked pork chop on rice.
Do you have a picture?
I do. I'll put it right here. With an iced coffee.
Hong Kong style. With condensed milk.
That is my favorite Chinese dish probably.
Yeah. It was just like a big foodie adventure. I felt like our mission was like eat as many dishes as we can, like fit in as many meals as we can in a day. That was like our number one goal of going there.
But other than food, we also made up for lost time. We finally spent the holidays, so Christmas and New Year's with our family.
It was incredible. It was so, again, surreal moment to like sit at this table with all of your loved ones and be like chatting about just everything and nothing at the same time, and eating. Like we have so many great home cooks in my family. Usually we like have this table, and I'll show you this picture.
There's like a couple of photos that will come up now.
Full of food. We had like lechon and like smoked salmon. We had like Brussels.
Gyoza.
It was just, oh my gosh, it was amazing. We had multiple family meals. We also had a hot pot meal for my birthday.
Yes, your birthday.
I turned 31 over the holidays. The holidays is always like a combination of like Christmas, New Year's, and then my birthday, because my birthday is on the 4th of January. So it's always like constant, like just everyday celebrations during the holidays. So the pandemic, I mean, there was a lockdown midway through in Vancouver on our trip. So a lot of like big group celebrations had to be canceled. So originally we were supposed to do like a big Chinese dinner for my birthday with my friends. Unfortunately, we had to cancel that because group gatherings were then
Large group gatherings.
larger, like I think more than 8 people or something.
No,
6
I think it's
people.
longer than, no, it's larger than, anything larger than 10 was a no-no.
Was it? Okay, yeah. Yeah, we had like 15 people, so it was really awkward to just cut out 5 people. So I just decided to cancel the birthday dinner and just did something smaller with a couple of my best friends instead. So yeah, the holidays were just incredible, and like so many parts, I felt like my eyes started watering just like looking at you. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is actually happening. And like just thinking back to that makes me so happy and makes me feel like we need to go back every holiday because it was such a better experience than us sitting.
I think it was a huge contrast to last year. We'll have a link on this
We'll
video.
link that video.
There's a video that we will link right now.
That was the saddest
last year for Christmas and then her birthday, Cheryl caught COVID, and that was a quiet, isolating holiday because we had to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then the year before that was pretty sad too. We were just, it wasn't even the pandemic yet, but all of our friends, expats, were out like going home and stuff. So I think the holidays in Amsterdam is just not comparable. So like for me, I think it would be like a better experience just to be back home for the holidays every year. So wow, Christmas morning.
Beautiful Vancouver.
What else did we do?
We spent a weekend on a road trip to Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
Specifically, we went to Tofino. And if you haven't heard of Tofino, it is a great place to be all year long, but especially in the summertime if you're a big surfer.
Yeah, but in the winter time, I don't know why, but it's like a thing like for storm watching because there's like so many huge waves because of the surfing edges of the beach. So a lot of people stay there. It's like a thing to do, like an experience is like storm watching. I guess it's very beautiful to be cozy in your home and just like watching the torrential rain happening outside. But we had an actually very mild winter experience in Tofino. Like it was a little drizzly, but it was like so beautiful. Like this ocean, like we just hung out at the beach and just like ran around in our big jackets, and it just felt so surreal because like the waves were like crashing in super hard, and we had a dog with us. Like one of our friends had brought their dog, so we were just running around the beach with the dog, and we were just having the best time. And we went with my 2 best friends. So my 2 best friends got married last year, and unfortunately those were the 2 weddings that I had to miss because of the pandemic. It was like the saddest thing from last year, but this trip we organized so that we can all hang out with our new husbands, not new for me, but their new husbands. And so it was just a great time for all 6 of us to like, you know, talk about all what happened in those weddings and like that we missed.
The moment, I'll call it a moment, the moment that stood out on that trip is from the moment we left our house in Vancouver to the point we got to the lodge in Tofino. That was probably a 7 to 8 hour journey.
It was a long journey.
And then we were in a car with 2 other people, the 1 other couple, and we did not turn on the radio or music for the whole trip, both ways. So basically 16 hours.
Yeah.
On the way there, on the way back, because we were busy talking.
We
non-stop.
literally talked our heads off. We were like, I guess we just miss each other so much. There was so much to talk about. We like literally yapped the whole way, just snacking and yapping like the whole way.
In a small Honda Fit with a big dog.
With a big dog.
So it was a crowded car, but yeah, there was no music. I just thought that was insane. Because when was the last time you do a road trip without any music or have it with us?
I think that's very representative of that friendship there. Like we've been friends with my best friend there, like both of us, we've been actually, you were probably closer with her before I even was close with her in high school. So we've been friends for like what, 15 years or more? I don't even know.
Getting close to 20 at this point.
Probably, yeah. So like these are like childhood friends that we've been hanging out with and pretty much grew up with. So it's just like such a heartwarming experience to like now be all married and like just talk about our dreams and aspirations and life in the last 2 years and all of our hardships and struggles that we've all lived through, and just kind of like for once like get to hug each other and just like cry and just be like, oh, I can't believe like we went through all of this like not together. Like all three of us, me and the other two girls, we all live in different places. Like one lives in, well, I live here, one lives in Vancouver, and the other one lives on the island, and for a period lived in Eastern Canada. So we all three of us lived in different places during the pandemic, and it was just so like just heartwarming to finally get to hug each other and be there for each other on all those missed times that we've experienced in the last 2 years. Oh my gosh. We wake up in the morning and we're covered with snow. This is like the thickest snow I think I've probably seen in Vancouver for a while now. Like this is very out of, like look how thick that is. How many inches is that? That's probably 2.5 feet of snow, I think. That's a lot for Vancouver standards. Let me show you around. So, now that we've been back to Vancouver and we've kind of experienced both sides. We lived in Amsterdam for 2.5 years. We lived pretty much our whole life in Vancouver, and then now we got this blip of an experience just like going back to what Vancouver is now in 2021 when we were there. What do you feel like are some like significant differences between life here and there?
One thing that stands out is the difference in transportation culture. So in Canada, let's just say Canada and the US, it's a big driving culture. To get anywhere, to see your friends, to go to the grocery store, you need to get into your car and drive to that destination. Whereas in the Netherlands, you just get on your bike, you bike for 10 minutes, and you can see your friends and get groceries. And then get back home really quickly. And I guess we just like, that really hit us hard during the holidays, because especially during the holidays, like there was so much traffic on the streets and it took us like hours and hours, and we were constantly late to everything because I think we just got used to Amsterdam and be like, oh, it takes about half an hour to get there. Let's leave like 5 minutes before half an hour. And like in Vancouver, you need to like at least half an hour early before the expected arrival to one place. Factor in finding parking.
So we were constantly late for everything that we were like, we kept telling people like, we'll be another 15. And I guess we just like kind of forgot about that.
So that's a pro for the Dutch life, is the transportation. But pro for Vancouver, we mentioned this already, but definitely the food. There is a lot of good food in Amsterdam and in the Netherlands, but I think there's just more variety of good quality food in Vancouver. Yeah,
there's definitely more variety of cuisines, but also the level of the quality of the food for those ethnic food groups, I think it's just a little bit higher, just because there's more demand for it, and also more competition, which really brings up the quality of food. So definitely a plus for Vancouver.
Plus for the Dutch life, I think this is partly our personal experiences, also from our expat friends' experience. I think the pace of life is probably slower out here in the Netherlands.
Now I wonder if that's due to the pandemic though. I feel like we don't really have a true like sense of what normal Amsterdam life is. We are in one of the biggest cities in the world. I feel like one of the most popular cities in the world. So it's kind of weird that we say the lifestyle's slower. I wonder. That's what our experience is. But if this is a true Dutch or the true Amsterdam experience, then +1 for the Dutch lifestyle on this one. We definitely do love that.
+1 for Vancouver, I think nature. Obviously, there's lots of nature in the Netherlands, but there's a lot more nature in Vancouver. Just because of the geography of Canada, it's just more land, more places to see and drive to. Not only do you get more parks, more beaches, but you also have the mountains, which is, for me at least, I really like snowboarding, and that's a big plus for me.
Yeah, the mountains, oh my gosh, the mountains are so freaking beautiful in Vancouver. Like, you can see them from everywhere, even within the city core, you can see the mountains, and they're beautiful to look at from afar, and they're even more beautiful to be on top of. It's just like, wow, it's breathtaking. And the fact that we can get there in like a half an hour drive is just...
And there's like 3 to 4 local...
half an hour drive without traffic. It's pretty incredible.
And there's 3 to 4 different local mountains you can choose from. So you don't have to go on a ski trip to go skiing or snowboarding. You can literally go to work, leave work a little earlier, and then go straight to a mountain after work.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
And one more difference to highlight, because we are in a pandemic world with COVID, handling of COVID between, let's say, Canada and the Netherlands, I would say the plus for the Netherlands is testing and the accessibility of self-testers. Because...
Testing and vaccinations.
True. I would say, but specifically our experience in Vancouver, you cannot find any self-testers available at stores. It's just not available. Don't know why. And 2...
But if you wanted to buy one digitally, like online somewhere, it would be like $10, $15
it's expensive.
Probably.
Where it's like €3 in the Netherlands.
It's like $2.50 or €3 depending where you buy it in the Netherlands.
And if you're sick and you want to get tested in Vancouver, you have to wait 2 to 4 hours in your car, in line, to have a chance of getting tested.
Yeah.
Whereas in the Netherlands, if you're sick, you just go online, find an appointment, sometimes even the same day, and you show up, and because you have a reservation, you don't have to wait.
Yeah, it's like almost instant. We've known so many people in Vancouver who just, even though they're sick, they don't get tested just because they know of the lineups, and there's a really high chance that they'll actually deny you, which is like kind of explaining why positive tests are so low in BC, I feel like. I think there's just less testing going on, whereas in Amsterdam, even if you have a headache, you can probably...
Or an itch in your throat.
Yeah, you can go get tested, and like, I think because of that, the testing rates are just so much higher that the percentage of people getting positive tests are so much higher. Attitude-wise, I think... Maybe
that is a plus for Vancouver. I'm speaking specifically for mask wearing. I think a lot of people do wear masks in the Netherlands, especially in Amsterdam, but I think there's just more of it in Vancouver. Because when you're outside in a public space, let's say downtown Vancouver, we saw a lot of people wearing masks just walking on the streets.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're in Amsterdam, when you're outside, most people don't wear masks.
I definitely felt like more secure and safe when I was in Vancouver because of that. Like, it did feel like everybody like put more importance into mask wearing and just abiding by the rules, whether that's helpful or not for the pandemic. I can't speak to that, but in Amsterdam, it definitely felt a little bit more loosey-goosey. It was kind of like, oh yeah, like it's recommended, but like like I constantly see people at the grocery store sometimes not wearing masks once they're inside, so it's not like, it definitely feels a little bit more secure in that sense because we are mask wearers ourselves. So definitely it's a slight difference there, but overall, like, I think that people have very similar attitudes towards vaccinations in both cities. A lot of rebellers, anti-vaxxers, but
both countries are Western countries.
Yeah, so I think it's in general the sentiment, like there's always like these groups who have different opinions. Yeah.
So after 2.5 years, we finally went back to Vancouver. We spent 5 amazing weeks there. Lots of good quality time with family and close friends.
Yes.
Will we ever move back to Vancouver? Your answer?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
How about you?
110% yes. If there was any doubt that we would never return home to Vancouver to live, I think that is squashed after that trip. As for when we go back, we don't know, but for sure Vancouver will be the home that we return to.
Yeah, so I think this is a temporary stay for us in Amsterdam, even though I feel like both places for me feels like home right now. It's kind of like 50-50, but I think going back home, you just realize how much you miss family and friends. And I think once we start our own little family, like I think it's important for us to prioritize being close to them, especially when we have like a baby in our life that really will depend on that community feeling with our family to feel at home as well. So.
And not just family and friends, but just even though we didn't have a home anymore in Vancouver, because we got rid of that when we left, just walking on the street in Vancouver, I just felt like home just walking on the street. And that to me tells me that this is home and we need to be back here in the future.
So, with that being said,
we're not announcing we're going back home.
No,
but we will.
And also not pregnant.
We will be back in Vancouver more often. So expect to see future vlogs in Vancouver when we visit home. But our next video, we're gonna share more about this new home that we're in.
I know a lot of doubters in the comments about like how hard it is to buy a home in Amsterdam. We had a very pleasant experience, and I know this might be very surprising to a lot of people. It happened very quickly, and we're gonna cover all of that in our experience buying process in Amsterdam in the next couple of videos. So in the comments below, we wanna know your questions. If you are an expat, if you live here in Amsterdam, what are your questions about the buying or concerns about the buying process in Amsterdam? Is it possible? How much it is? All the juicy questions. In the upcoming videos, we're going to be compiling all of our experience in the last couple of months shopping for this beautiful apartment here. So we'd love to hear, make sure that our videos are actually helpful for you and not just like everything from our perspective. So please let us know in the comments below. And press subscribe so that you get a notification when this video is uploaded. Yes, please. Our goal this year is to hit 1,000 subscribers. We are so close. So if you've been watching and you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. We would really appreciate it in helping us reach our goal. And that concludes our video. We hope you guys enjoyed it. And we wish you a happy belated New Year and all the best in 2022. All right, see you in the next video. Bye. Bye.